Hey guys, my name is Miska and welcome to Overwatch Central. Cheaters don't seem too common in Overwatch nowadays, but they can still definitely appear. Luckily we have the replay system in place, so now you can actually check back if you feel like someone was acting a little bit weird or were hitting just a little bit too many shots. And most of the time that will dispel that whole, oh wow, that person was probably cheating thing that does happen quite a bit in games. We all want to make excuses for things, right? It's only human, really. But sometimes when people are actually cheating, there can be ways to deal with it. And recently it's been brought to light once again, a particular, I guess you could say, bug on a payload map that will allow for a draw to happen in a pretty easy way, actually. It's been highlighted a few times, both intentionally and unintentionally, most recently on r/competitive Overwatch today. This is a snippet of what it can look like. So at first it might seem just like it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but what's happening here is that the payload pushes up to a certain part of the map, but as the overtime runs out, it is in the exact same spot as the previous payload. This is because the payload has either not moved at all and just happens to be in the precise spot where it started, where this bug was initially sort of found and used, or in the example that you saw, where the payload is pushed up and then the animation for the payload passing through a doorway or anything like that starts, and it pushes through to the exact spot where you would normally be able to start pushing the payload again, but either it's contested until right at the end or it just stops. By doing that, you can achieve the payload stopping in the exact same place on attack and defense. So both teams will have pushed the cart the exact same amount or not pushed it at all. The game ends and it's put into a draw because you are actually in the exact same spot. The first instances I've seen of this was way back when Tim the Tatman streamed a lot. I think Seagull really early on too used this when cheaters were a little bit more common to draw games. If either team discovered that there were a cheater in their lobby, they would just decide to draw the game in the chat.
No one moves the cart.
Dude, just fucking time.
Don't move the payload!
What are you
What's going on?
No. What plastic?
Yeah, boy.
Now you can do that at the very start of the map if you don't push the payload at all. If nobody ever pushes the cart, they just stop at the exact same spot, which is right at the start, and it's a bit easier to achieve this bug or whatever you want to call it that then draws the game. And to some degree, yeah, this does make a lot of sense the way this works, but seeing it not happen right at the start of a map can add a little bit of confusion, which is why I think today at least this particular Reddit thread blew up a bit. So to summarize, if the payload stops in the exact same spot, either due to an animation that's happening, so it just happens to be the correct location, or the payload doesn't move at all and it's just at the start of the map, you get a draw, and you can use that to kind of combat cheaters. And it's a really cool way to do it, and I wanted to use this whole discussion and take this opportunity when talking about cheaters and things like this to also discuss cheaters and sportsmanship in Overwatch. In something like Counter-Strike, it's not very uncommon to play a game, and if someone's doing incredibly well on either team, people will call out wall hacks or just aimbot or whatever it is. It does happen quite a bit. And whilst Gaben sends people on vacation quite regularly, the system doesn't always catch cheaters, and they also have a system in CS, actually funnily enough, called Overwatch that allows you to rewatch replays and sort of judge if there's a cheater you're watching or not. We have luckily not really needed that in Overwatch because Blizzard have been very good at shutting these things down. Korea do a very good job at banning cheaters and even putting them in jail recently, I believe. Account boosting too is taken very seriously, and that's really helped with the Overwatch competitive space. But something that Blizzard can't really enforce with just systems like these is sportsmanship, and I think that's something that's incredibly important. The other day I was playing normally on King's Row as a Risa, and I managed to kill a final Ana that's been jumping around a bunch in front of me, and I'd been trying to crouch and move a bit erratically to not get slept by her. So when that Ana died, I was still crouching around and I started spinning as well and kind of began teabagging this person. Not really as a disrespectful thing, but more that it was such a hectic thing going on that I just, kept spinning around afterwards kind of for fun. But this guy on the enemy team took huge offense in this, and I tried to just say, yeah, yeah, I kind of didn't really mean it like that, but obviously it doesn't come off as genuine anymore. And this is just the sort of thing that I think is pretty important to think about. Maybe not just teabagging particularly. Some people take it seriously. Personally, if someone teabags me, I probably just laugh it off. But it's that sort of thing that I think just generally staying respectful when playing video games is a lot more key than most realize. And I'm not just saying this as like a sort of PMA general thing, but if you actually manage to do that yourself, you can disconnect more frustration from the game and other things like that from your own mindset, and yeah, just create a bit of distance between you and the game, which in itself allows you to not get as tilted and fall into frustrated mindsets where you don't feel like you can get a lot done and everything just becomes a mess of not improving, playing more because you're not winning, or playing more even if you're frustrated and losing because of tilt. It's definitely connected, and I feel like it's something that we don't really talk about enough in Overwatch because there is a stereotype around toxicity in Overwatch. I think there's different ways to deal with toxicity. Generally, if someone is toxic towards me directly, I do try to answer that person, but in like a very non-sort of threatening way, just kind of like trying to diffuse the situation, or I just kind of like acknowledge it and move on. But not everyone does that, and I feel like that part is often kind of forgotten. We take toxicity for granted, but we don't take sportsmanship for granted. It's kind of a weird flipped situation there. Something that I wanted to really reiterate for people to keep in mind when playing Overwatch, because in ranked recently, as I've played a lot more myself, I do see a lot of that sort of hostility where people seem to think that other people on their team just have the worst in mind for them, you know, they don't want their other teammates to succeed, when in fact you're all just 12 people wanting to play a video game together in a sort of competitive environment. You're all there for the same thing, really. Anyway, that's it for this video. I wanted to highlight this bug and talk about this sort of community and mindset around Overwatch in connection with it. I hope you guys enjoyed. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.